From the Supreme Court first, well, the apex court has fixed minimum compensation of 3 lakh for acid attack victims. Supreme Court has instructed the state governments and union territories to pay 1 lakh compensation within 15 days period. The state governments and duties will have to bear the rehabilitation and medical expenses of the victim. So that's the latest coming in from the Supreme Court. Jaskirat Singh Bawa, my colleague, is now joining us with latest. Jaskirat, just day before we had the Supreme Court put curbs on the sale of acid, and now another bold step towards curtailing these acid attacks, and after that the process of rehabilitation of the victims. Just take us through the details of the order.
Well, the details are still coming in because it's quite a long order that the judges are getting written, but what we know so far is, of course, about the compensation, a 3 lakh of minimum compensation for the victims, but that's just the minimum limit.
Just request you to hold your thought. I think we're getting to hear from a counsel in the Supreme Court. Let's listen it.
वो पब्लिक इंटरेस्ट लिटिगेशन लिस्ट हुआ था जिसमें शारदा के साथ और भी जो चीट फंड है तो उनके खिलाफ सीबीआई इंक्वायरी एंड
appears to be some other case. Jaskirat, if you're still with us, you're just taking us through the details of whatever little we have right now of the Supreme Court order, where clearly the court has factored in the rehabilitation aspect of acid attack victims and has given clear directions to the union territories and state to bear medical expenses of the victims.
That is correct. The union territories and the state governments will have to pay the expenses. A minimum of 3 lakh compensation will have to be paid. There is no limit as to the maximum compensation. That is up to the state government and the union territory administration prerogative. A minimum of 1 lakh rupee to be paid within 50 days is also part of the order. Another very important aspect, of course, in continuation with the previous order, just a couple of days back, is sale of bulk acid for educational and medical purposes. This will require the SDM, Subdivisional Magistrate's permission as well as supervision to ensure that none of this bulk acid, which is bought for educational or medical purpose, is actually distributed outside of that purview. So those are some of the restrictions which are being put in place, taking into consideration this entire issue with regards to the acid attack victims. We are awaiting more details on the written order about the view taken by the Supreme Court and how it is to be implemented by the administration.
Right, but clearly, Jaskirat, finally some steps in the right direction, considering there hasn't been a coherent plan to deal with the menace of acid attack. The Supreme Court now stepping in, first putting curbs on the sale of acid, and now, of course, also focusing on the rehabilitation and medical treatment of acid attack victims.
That is correct. Now, if you look at the larger picture, this is in continuation for the past couple of years. We actually seen Supreme Court stepping in where the executive should have actually taken some bold steps. The Supreme Court is actually filling the vacuum and left behind by the executive as well as the legislature, where in the first place they should have implemented this place. Of course, the Supreme Court has been very critical of the government as far as acid attack victims is concerned, because it's been going through these incidents that have taken place over the years. The Supreme Court has very explicitly suggested, taken into view what are the pleas of the acid attack victims. Many of them, of course, end up succumbing to their injuries. That is something which has been of a very grave concern as far as the Supreme Court is concerned. Taking into account that this is a human life that they're talking about, also the victims of acid attack, not only just those who survive the acid attack have to suffer for the rest of their life. That is also one of the viewpoints taken into consideration by the Supreme Court before they went into taking a proactive step to curb the sale of acid. Also, they believe this will, of course, have a chain effect, a butterfly effect of sorts, as far as the dissemination of acid is concerned amongst the population.
Jaskirat Singh Bawa, thank you very much for joining us and giving us a sense of what really the court order entails. So clearly some relief there for acid attack victims, a balm relief from the Supreme Court for the victims of these attacks.